Obsession, delusion, fantasy, and death. What is going on in Dre's mind, and why was her fandom taken to such extremes? Throughout the series, we are introduced to the strangeness of Dre's character, and with that, we witness very early on that Dre struggles with one core need that she never seems to fulfill, her need to be accepted. Dre was a peculiar child, growing up in a troubled background and taken in by neglectful and self-serving adoptive parents. She never experienced feeling truly loved, valued, and accepted. It's notable that by her nature, she suffered with some abnormalities, but she wasn't nurtured properly to handle these big and challenging feelings. Instead, her adoptive parents scolded her, singled her out, and even locked her in an attic to keep her away from Marissa's friends. I can't imagine that this would help her cope with her mental challenges, and due to this, Dre grew a strong dependence and love for those who made her feel accepted. And with that, she became obsessively protective over those that she truly felt accepted by. This is what Marissa represents, the only person who truly loved and accepted Dre for who she was. This is also what the Beehive represents, a place where Dre also truly felt valued, and since she felt that this core need was being fulfilled by this group and by her sister, she latched onto them with a passionate force and vowed to protect them no matter what. After losing Marissa, these obsessions were combined with the gut-wrenching feeling of grief. This morphed into delusions. Dre was deluded the whole way through her journey, thinking and believing that she had a duty to protect her idol by murder. As we watch Dre evolve into a serial killer, we see her mainly kill for two reasons: out of revenge or protection for Nyjah and Marissa. There are a lot of confusing inconsistencies throughout the show, and I'm going to explain why that is because it was intentional. In my interpretation, with the PTSD and grief from witnessing Marissa's death, it is clear that Dre's reality becomes increasingly distorted. This begins to make a lot of sense in the detective episode 6. There are a ton of differences from the perspective of Detective Green rather than the perspective of Dre. Dre perceived life in a clearly very unreliable and unstable manner. The differences are intentionally emphasized in this episode, from big events in her life down to physical appearances. For example, in episode 4, we find out that Dre would bring up an event from her childhood regarding spilled milk, and she would describe the milk as being red during her hypnosis session, revealing that it was actually blood after she stabbed the girl at Marissa's 16th birthday party. Dre also bites into a fruit and begins to experience a moment of overwhelming sensory changes around her, mixed with fantasy and delusion. Without realizing, she actually bit into Nyjah and she hallucinated the fruit. With the distortions emphasized in Dre's reality, we see her vulnerabilities come out in different ways. The perfect cult victim. One of the ways Dre's vulnerabilities would show themselves was when she found herself caught in the hooks of a cult, guided by the cult leader Eva, played by Billie Eilish. Eva instantly studies Dre and recognizes the vulnerabilities of others, to which she begins to use it as a tool of manipulation to lure more members into her cult. The cult is characterized by a number of women who all show strong resemblances. All of the women are shown to be in warm tones, with Eva in a bright red color and Dre in a cold blue color. The color symbolism conveys the major differences and initial disconnection between Eva and Dre. We see another member in blue. We later find out that she's dressed in a similar color to Dre because she's also a newcomer and can relate to Dre the most on some. Throughout Dre's time with Eva, we see her gradually wear more and more warm colors, portraying Eva's influence on Dre growing. Dre was susceptible to Eva's manipulation because victims who are most likely to be swayed into a cult are usually the ones who desire acceptance and a sense of belonging. It's clear that Dre's core need was to feel accepted, and Eva knew this about Dre, which is why she repeatedly brought up Nyjah. She used things that mattered the most to Dre to influence her, and eventually she used hypnosis and manipulation tactics to extract information from her. It is clear that Eva is experienced with this. Her leadership is manipulative in nature. She's very good at sniffing out someone's weaknesses, as she did that almost instantly with Dre. Her psychological tactics reached the depths of Dre's mind, and she viewed Dre as a weapon to strengthen her cult. She didn't fear her, as she truly believed that she could control her. Eva's mistake was not realizing the power that Nyjah and her Beehive already had on Dre's mind. Eva was trying to influence Dre into feeling that her cult was a better community. By deceiving her with the concert situation, she unleashed a side of Dre that she knew existed but didn't expect would come out onto her. Once she lost control by using that positive hypnotic force, she began using negative forms of control by insinuating threats and pointing out Dre's vulnerabilities to her, resulting in her own death. Swarm, ending explained. The ending may be confusing for many, but considering my previous discussion about Dre and her perceptions of reality being distorted, it becomes easier for us to understand the root of Dre's needs and motivation. When Dre went to the concert, she hopped on a stage and we see Nyjah approach her. However, the effects around Nyjah were ethereal and glowing, appearing to be a hallucination. And also, Nyjah no longer looks like the Nyjah we saw throughout this series. She now looks a lot like Marissa, now confirming that it is indeed a hallucination and a revelation into Dre's mind. Marissa and Nyjah both represented acceptance to Dre, so they both begin to morph together. This hallucination goes as far to show Dre being escorted into a car and held in Nyjah's arm, a dream she could only hope for at this point. She cries and feels a moment of being truly loved and accepted after many years of obsession. Dre's pain finally comes out in this moment while she lives in her hallucination. But what's happening in reality is actually revealed in the episode prior, in episode 6. With Detective Green, we find out that someone had hopped onto a Nyjah stage and had been arrested. Detective Green was positive that it was Dre. She showed us a picture that was not the same Dre that we've also been seeing. This is because the clear distinction in appearance insinuates Dre's distortion in reality and that she sees herself and her surroundings differently than what is actually occurring in reality. Detective Green's episode represented the perspective of what is happening in real life. Dre was not escorted into a car with Nyjah. She was escorted into a police car and taken to the police station where Detective Green will meet her. In a previous episode, Dre also told Eva before killing her that God is an echo of us, and she hallucinates being held by a woman who represents a mixture of both Marissa and Nyjah, showing that she created her own happy ending in her mind, revealing the meaning of the episode title being God only creates happy endings. Thank you guys so much for watching my video today. I hope you enjoyed it. Leave a comment below for what you'd like me to analyze next, and I'll see you guys next week.